Here we go.
Yeah.
It is time.
Right on.
That people can't wait for. It is Les Kevin
More tech.
from UTEC IT.
.com.
So today we've got a wonderful guest, and for all you kids at home that want to have pets, we've got TurtleWorks here. So we found a wonderful. Am I wrong? You guys laughing? Am I wrong?
Yeah,
No, not at all.
yeah,
There's a great
yeah.
story behind the name, and we're going to get to it. And
Why don't you take us into it then, since
So-
I've already butchered it.
I ain't butchered nothing. So Joe Wainz, owner, founder of TurtleWorks. And so Joe and myself met at a business networking meeting, and we were talking, and I was drawn to your idea, your business idea, because I really like this concept.
Did he sell you a puppy or a turtle?
Yeah, you know what, the puppy dog clothes? Yeah, right. Took the turtle home. But so, Joe, I'm not going to steal your thunder, but I just want everybody to
Les.
know, I think it's a phenomenal business concept, and I know and have spoken to your customers, and they love the work that you do, and we also share some other mutual business acquaintances.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start this off with just a little bit of background on Joe Wainz, and let's take it to like your corporate role, your last corporate role.
My last corporate role.
Yeah, and then how you got that entrepreneurial flavor, that thing that fired through, and I want the people to know about the name and the logo. I think the logo is a great story.
Yes.
Okay, we'll bounce all over then. So I was at a tier 1 automotive supplier that went bankrupt in the recession.
Yeah.
And it worked out really well for me because we had a partnership with laser welded blank company in Europe, ArcelorMittal tailored blanks, and they needed my help to move the financial consolidation system over to Europe. And the fellow that I was working for, the outsourced CIO, was also an entrepreneur. And I was done at that point working for the man, and I wanted to have my own deal.
So hold on a second. Just to let you know, moving financial systems across the globe and things. Me and Kevin do that stuff.
Yeah, all
Kind
the
of
time.
It's heavy lifting.
Yeah, you put it in the trunk.
Yeah, we put it in the trunk. We carry it around.
And we paddle.
But that was a big project.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, Noel was the fellow I was working for, and as I mentioned, he was an entrepreneur as well, is an entrepreneur. And I said, "Hey, Noel, I want to go to business for myself. Will you help me out?" And he said, "Sure." And he fed me business for a year and a half, and that's when I started remote working. So people have been remote working way before COVID. Matter of fact, I was doing webinars on how to work remotely when COVID hit because I'd been doing it so long. And my team is remote as well.
Yeah. So Joe, you're
This is back, what, in 2008, 2009, 10?
2009, yeah. June
Okay.
of 2009 is when TurtleWorks officially started. I say going through the bankruptcy with the company was the best bankruptcy I'd ever been through. They kept me there for months, and they paid me bonuses to stay.
Uh-huh.
And I was encouraged to work on my resume and whatever. So plenty of the people who found new jobs started calling me, so I didn't really have to go selling initially. Customers fell out of the sky, which is a great way to get a business off the ground. That didn't last. After a couple of years, I had to learn about sales and marketing, which I have. But initially it was a nice start.
Well, that's kind of funny, Joe. Our start was 2008. And, I'd left a job.
It's a terrible
and
time to start a business, isn't it?
Well, and my wife kept on saying, "We're going to do what?" And I said, "Honey, this is the perfect time because all the houses." I said, "They don't want any more houses. They can't take any more houses. They've got a glut of them." You know what I mean?
You've got some options there.
Yeah, they can have our kids, and that's fine. That might be a win. That's the upside, But they won't take our house, and there is no debtor's prison. So let's try it. But it's funny because that really helped spur some of the people on. Like you had this idea in the back of your mind, and you just went for it. And it's funny how adversity, they always say, crisis creates opportunity, right?
Really? Yeah. So I grew up in a family business and, experienced that. My grandfather started a business and I knew what that was like. And I went to college, got the job, got another job, got another job. I didn't stay at a place more than 5 years. I just either didn't work out, or I didn't like it, or I found something better. And I've been doing this 13 years, so it's the fit for me.
Yeah.
Having my own deal is certainly the fit. There's challenges. Having your own business is not easy, folks. Not at all. But it's worth the personal growth, the development, the relationships, and all the opportunities that you get if you do it.
Yeah, and do it well.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically you left your corporate role,
Mm-hmm.
and when you started TurtleWorks, that what helped get you off the ground and support your business was that you took who you just left as your number one client.
Essentially, that was the beginning. Yeah, and then a network manager. Our network manager got a job at a manufacturer, and he's like, Joe, we need help with ISO 9000 certification. We need a document management system. You're our SharePoint guy. Can you come in and do some work for us? So I came in, and we did SharePoint, but I turned that into a 2-year deal where I was doing more than their document management for ISO. We were building systems to do drug testing, random pulls, and connecting their trucking management system with their ERP system with SharePoint, so that the people on the dock could see what needed to be done with particular loads, and information could travel back and forth. Or if a customer called and said, hey, where's my shipment at, that information was available in SharePoint for them to see, because we had pulled things together from multiple systems. And that's really a lot of the work we do is filling that gap that exists between core systems like ERP, financial systems, QuickBooks, whatever those CRM, whatever the systems are that you're using. They get you 80% of where you need to go, but there's this 20% that you still need. And what people do, and God bless them that they do it, is they fill that gap with spreadsheets and email and paper and phone calls. And, those are the tools they know, so that's what they use. But guys, Microsoft 365 has over 25 plus applications in there to help you run your business. Way more than Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and Outlook. And if you get some experience with those tools, or you talk to somebody like me and get some exposure to what's in there, you have this ability to automate and fill that gap in a much better way. So that's really what we do a lot of is filling that gap.
Yeah. So Kev, here's why I find this thing fascinating. How many businesses do we run into that are Microsoft 365? Virtually everybody. Yeah. Once you get out of that K-12 area, virtually everybody is Microsoft, and everybody talks about Word, Excel. Some discussions of they want to go to SharePoint, but not a lot actually do. No. And so it's a lot. We see it all the time. They're creating spreadsheets. They're emailing spreadsheets. They're you didn't get my email? You get the CYA move at the business level. So Joe goes in and he does analysis, gap studies. He's got about a 5-step process, if I recall correctly.
5-step process.
Yep. Yeah. And it's all about saying, hey, you already pay for this. You've invested in this, but you're just not using it. And then he fills the gap. So
if you make me do this, I'll have a 12-step process shortly after.
Yes. Yeah.
My name is Kevin.
I'm being a programmer. So Joe, so you said how many applications, when somebody gets a Microsoft license, right? Mm-hmm. Like most of us look at a browser, Outlook, right? Word,
Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint. Some people have found OneNote, which I found about 6 or 7 years ago. I literally do not have a notepad on my desk anymore. So that notepad that's got 10 pages sort of folded over because you can't pull the first page off because it's got somebody's phone number you can't lose. And it's got somebody's name on the second page, and there's an appointment you haven't managed to move to your calendar yet. So I don't have any of that. OneNote does all of that for me, and it's in the cloud. So even though I'm on my laptop and I take the notes there, if I'm in the car, I can pull it up on the phone when I'm stopped. Or if I'm, at a client and I'm on, some computer in a conference, I can still pull up my OneNote by logging in through the browser to see some notes. So I've absolutely used it in a parking lot before going in a meeting to figure out all the names of the people that I'm meeting with before I walk in the door because I can't remember the last person or whatever. It's searchable, it's organizable, it's got history, it's got version control. So, what you want to see what the notes look like last week, you can. Really, there's no reason to do paper notebooks anymore.
No,
for the most part.
We use it. I'm sorry to overtalk, but we use it, and I'm a big believer in it. And now I'm not an expert and I'm not proficient in it, but we've got a couple reps that are really just smoking with that application. It's funny. It makes life so much easier, but we're all intimidated, I think, right? Isn't that at the core? We want change, but we're afraid to change. But if we open our minds and we do try it, how do we do it without before?
Right.
I don't know. That's one of the reasons I love the youth, because they just jump in. I like being around them because they're willing to try that stuff.
He loves the youth. I've never heard it put that way.
They drag me along. I don't know if drag is the right word, but they encourage me. They excite me, and I'm in. Let's try this. Let's try that. So, but yeah, OneNote, it's also collaborative, right? So, we have processes in place internally, and every client gets a OneNote notebook. So, if I'm having a meeting, I'm taking those notes there. But my team now has access to that notebook as well. So all the notes are transparent. If they're on the call or if they're in the meeting with me, they may be typing in the notebook at the same time I am, which is all good because it works. It lets you do that. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now that leaves 20 more applications. Seriously, these people
and Microsoft keeps adding more. So
I like one of the ones I use with you, like when we connect, it's real funny. Instead of, hey, give me a call, he says, go to my website and book an appointment, right?
Oh, yeah.
So talk about that one, because I think that's cool.
Mm-hmm. So I'll start with Calendly, which is a product that a lot of people pay for, and it allows that very thing. Here's a link. You can see my calendar when I'm open, and you can schedule an appointment. So if you have Microsoft 365, you have something called Bookings, which does the same thing, and you already paid for it, so you can cancel your subscription to Calendly. And it does that thing. You can set up 15-minute phone call, half-hour web meeting, whatever the requirements are. You can set up those scenarios, and people just book them. So now you have that link in your signature on your email if somebody needs to schedule something, or you're doing a webinar, or something out on the website, they just click on the link. There's another tool in there that deals with a problem that is a little more complicated. It's when you're trying to schedule a meeting with people from multiple organizations, you don't have access to their calendar. Say you've got 4 people, 4 different organizations. How do you find an intersection of calendar, right? So you write this big long list of options in an email, you send it out, and people are like, no, I can't do Thursday, I can't do Friday. And you're jumping through a lot of hoops. 5 or 6 times back and forth, you finally get something that works. So Find Time is an add-in that is available for Outlook. It's free, it's part of Microsoft's deal, and it lets you create a poll. It knows what your calendar looks like. So when you go to create the poll, it gives you the options that are open on your calendar. And it also, down at the bottom, if there's stuff you want to override, like I know I got a meeting tomorrow, but this is more important now, I'll open that slot up. You can add those options as well. You figure out, what 20 or 15 or 10 options you want to make available. Everybody in the email now gets the opportunity to vote. And they can just select all the options that work for them, don't work for them, which ones they prefer. As soon as there's an intersection across everybody, the meeting is scheduled automatically for you. Something you already have.
Yeah.
Something you already have. Nobody knows it's there. We use it all the time.
And these are easy to learn. You just got to get in and play around with it.
Yeah. These are the things that, you just get started and small business, medium-sized business, anybody can benefit from them. There's not a lot of work to set them up. There are tools in there, and one of the questions we often ask clients when we engage is, where are you running your business off spreadsheets? So I mentioned that gap between core systems and the way you actually do work. Spreadsheets are one of the ways that people fill that gap. So they use a spreadsheet for tracking things, for keeping statuses updated, for allowing multiple people to see what's going on with a job, production schedule. I've seen all kinds of things. And inside of Microsoft 365 is something known as a list. It has rows and columns like a spreadsheet. You can update it, so you can use it to keep track of things just like you do with Excel. It's available on any internet-connected device, so you can be out on the plant floor with your phone or tablet and update it that way. You don't need to be at your desk. Multiple people can be in there updating the same list simultaneously, so you don't have to worry about conflicts. It ties in very well with something called the Power Platform, which is included in your subscription. And that includes Power Automate, which is the tool. I like to think of it like the old mousetrap game where you connect the bathtub and the diving board and the bowling ball. So Power Automate lets you connect all kinds of different applications together, and it will respond to, you received an email, well, let's go do this. Or somebody tweeted about you, let's send you an email or send you a text to let you know, or let's update a SharePoint list, or let's do whatever. So all of those options are there. So with Power Automate, we can tie into that list and have things happen. So we've got in production master schedule for a manufacturing company. So all of their jobs, everything that's going through the shop floor is in this list. And when they receive drawings, somebody goes into the list and says, receive drawings, yes. Well, that lets the engineering manager know automatically via email now that the drawings have arrived. If they get the shipping dates, they know when they're going to ship this stuff in 3 months. They put those dates into the list. Well, now the shipping department gets notified immediately, so they can start arranging when the truck's going to arrive, what size truck.
So Joe, you're able to, a lot of things that people walk through an organization or they email, it now becomes an automated workflow. So it's consistent, it's measurable, you can improve on it over time, right?
Yeah, workflow is a great word.
Yeah. So what I'm curious about is so many people have all these products, majority never use it. How do they find you? In your, what's your sales and marketing modus operandi, I guess?
So, I do stuff like this.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah. You do.
I do.
By the way, give everybody a plug for your live.
Yeah. Tuesday. Well, not every Tuesday, but regularly, I'm doing live discussions around productivity. The Power of Productivity is the name of the discussion, and we stream on LinkedIn and Facebook. And they're usually about a half an hour, and it's different folks. We did one Tuesday with a business coach on scorecards, and just how that can really propel your business if you have the right metrics and you're monitoring those metrics and how to do it easily. So that's one we did recently. We did one on a digital workplace. So how to design that digital workplace. What are the things to pay attention to? Really, who cares about what at what level? C-levels care about efficiencies and their employees being able to find stuff and work easily. And managers care more about nuts and bolts and how do I track X, Y, and Z, or how do I make sure that stuff goes out the door. And then, the line workers or the frontline workers, they just care about simplicity. So getting rid of manual data entry. We covered a lot of those topics.
Yeah. So how do they find that?
How do they find? That's a good question. It's on my LinkedIn page. So if you go to my LinkedIn page, which I can't tell you what it is.
Just look up Joe at TurtleWorks.
Yeah. Look for turtles.
TurtleWorks.
Well, there'll be stuff on the trailer here at the end that people
at the
can find you, Joe.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
So I just find this a fascinating business model. And then our equipment we've talked about. You've done projects with companies with our equipment.
Yeah.
Our MFPs.
So again, that whole Power Automate idea, the mousetrap game where you can connect things. So if you're scanning documents, they go somewhere. They go to email, or maybe they go to a folder. But wouldn't it be nice if they went to the right folder? And wouldn't it be nice if somebody was notified if there were approvals involved and that whole approval workflow kicked off? So that's all very doable with the tools you have in Microsoft 365. It'll work with any MFP that'll at least send a scan to email. And we've done that in the past for companies, and it works successfully. So, yeah, that's a simple thing to do.
Yeah, I'm excited to work with our clients so that they can utilize our technology
Yeah, for sure.
more efficiently.
Joe, so how do business owners, guys like me that might be sitting there, is there a blueprint or a standard point where we get to where we say, our guys aren't using us the right way, or we're stuck? How do we know to go look for you? What's that point that goes through our minds that there's other guys out there, I think they hear this, I think it's great, but what's the call to action to get them engaged to go look for you?
So often it's really exposing, I'll say it this way, they're exposing their ignorance. Like they finally, the light bulb comes on and is like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. That's one way that they would become engaged and seek me out. I often get calls because they're struggling with QuickBooks, or they're struggling with a lot of paper and they don't know a better way to do it. Or they're wondering if they're outgrowing QuickBooks and how do I keep running my business? Should I switch to an ERP? And those are questions I get pulled into, and we'll help them do an evaluation to figure out if in fact they've outgrown that. Often it's just introductions. I'm somewhere and I get introduced and we start talking and they realize, oh, I could use that. Let me bring Joe in. Let's see what's going on. And I mentioned the spreadsheets question, and that's often what we'll do is we'll just start having a conversation about, where you're running your business off spreadsheets, and we'll talk about that. Where are you manually creating reports daily, weekly, monthly? And how much time is it taking you to create those reports manually? Those two things happen a lot in businesses, and they don't know that they have tools to make it easier, so they just keep doing what they're doing. I've talked with businesses 8 hours every week to create 5 reports. 8 hours. So somebody's spending that time that they could get back. So, whatever that burden labor rate is, times 8 times 52, you can have that back. Plus, you can have their time back to actually analyze the data and figure out how to improve your business as opposed to doing busy work. So it's the reports, it's the spreadsheets, and then really the last question is, where are you having the same phone call or sending the same email or reading the same email or getting the same phone call over and over again from your staff, from your customers, from your vendors? Because there's an opportunity to streamline that, to automate that, to do something I call it the Amazon experience. When you place an order with Amazon, you know what's going on. Right? You get those emails telling you got your order is being shipped, you should get it on such and such a date, your order's arrived, right? So we do that work. We've worked with companies literally. One example, we worked with a pharmaceutical packaging company. They had a great process for 30, 40 years ago. Everything was on paper, and they get a new job, they Xerox the whole thing, and they put it on a clipboard, and that's the job, and it walks around the shop floor. So when a customer calls and says, can you tell me what the status of my order is? They'd say, let me call you back. And they would go walk the shop floor. They had no idea where the clipboard was, so they'd have to go look for the clipboard. So we did a simple thing. We was like, let's put a list in place. And every time you get an order, you just put an entry in the order. And anytime you move that order from, we've received it to it's going into production, it's in quality, whatever, all you have to do is tell the office and they'll update the list. So they did that. And then we used Power Automate to send out emails anytime there was a status change. So the PO goes in the list, an email goes back to the customer. We've received your PO. They issue it for production, an email goes to the customer. It's in quality, it's shipped, all of those emails. So I call up as a follow-up, I call up the person that used to walk the floor looking for the clipboards. And I'm like, hey, Ann, how are those phone calls going? Because I'm figuring if they're calling, she just goes in SharePoint. It's, 30 seconds, she pulls up the order and she tells them, as opposed to calling back in 2 hours. And her response blew me away. She says, Joe, what phone calls? We don't get them anymore because the customer knows via those emails. So that's what I'm talking about with if you're having those same conversations or sending those same emails, there are things we can do most likely to make that go away.
Well, we won't call you again, Joe, if you keep on saying Xerox on the show, all right? we have a rule around here. Friends don't let friends buy Xerox, okay? So
Sorry.
either that or I'll start calling you Jim again.
But here's the cool thing: the pharmaceutical, they just improved customer service.
For sure.
It probably had a impact on their top line as well as their bottom line. Actually, had a positive impact on their bottom line because now the labor that was spent finding the clipboard and tracking it, that's now
and
somewhere
morale.
else.
And morale, right?
And morale.
She didn't have to get up and walk and look for something anymore.
So a lot of intrinsic value there. A lot.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're now just, there's still 17 more, and we probably talk all day about what everybody owns. Is there one that kind of sticks out that we haven't covered yet?
Let's talk about Power BI. I'd love to talk about Teams.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Power BI.
Power BI, okay.
But Teams is more than a meetings tool. Meetings is about 25% of what Teams does. There's a
see
whole
that one I find
ecosystem inside of there that we can talk about. But let's talk about Power BI. So I mentioned this idea of having to manually create reports. Well, Power BI is the tool that lets us automate that process. So it's free, folks. Even if you don't have Microsoft 365, Microsoft is giving it away. You can download the desktop for free. You can automate your reports. It's when you want to start sharing those reports with other staff members and they need security, that kind of thing, you have to subscribe. But if you've got M365, Microsoft 365, you've already got it. And that's the tool that lets you, all those steps before where you're exporting data from an ERP system into Excel, and then you're getting rid of columns and filtering and sorting and creating charts and graphs and all that kind of stuff. We record all of that inside of Power BI one time, and then we publish those reports. Anytime you want to see your data, you can click refresh, and it goes back to all those data sources and pulls all that data together again. You don't need to build a data warehouse. You don't need to build a data mart or data lake, any of that stuff. Power BI will just keep all those connections. It remembers how they're related, and it lets you automatically just refresh those reports by clicking a button. And you can also schedule up to 8 refreshes a day. So if you have a lengthy refresh process, you can do it at night and come in the morning and see your stuff. So, I wanted to touch on Power BI.
Yeah, Power BI is awesome because that's really where you get the that improves the business accuracy for decision making. And automates through there. And I mean, we can have a whole thing on Teams because I am as guilty as anybody. I use Teams as much as I can. But what do I use it for? I call people, I have meetings with it, and I see all those other buttons, but I don't take it to that next level.
Yeah, there's some strong integration between Teams and SharePoint. So I'll stay out of the weeds, but at some point you need to put files in the cloud, right? So how do you do that? Well, there's OneDrive, there's Teams, there's SharePoint. Under the hood, it's all SharePoint. So it's really just a different user interface for getting to your SharePoint files. So if you're in Teams and you see files, they're really stored in SharePoint, but who cares? You need to get to those files, so you're in Teams. That's where you get to them from. Those lists I talked about, you can surface those lists in tabs in Teams. So, you create a finance team, you can have your finance files there. You can have any lists related to things you're tracking, like invoices or that you need to submit or whatever. It's all right there as tabs within that finance team.
Well, why don't we do this? We'll just take an action item out of this. We've got some great partners in the Ann Arbor and the Brighton chambers, and we'll put together a workshop on Teams. Let's do that.
That's a good idea. Would you
and
do
have
that
something?
with us,
Yeah, I've done that in the past. Yeah,
really,
absolutely.
that's awesome.
Yeah, so let's do a Teams thing. We'll arrange it through them. We'll get something out there, and we'll have you in and do that. And let's, because it is, we're using it, and we got to use it more, and that's something that would be fun to get folks involved in.
It is. That's a great idea. Hey, Joe, for a little bit of fun,
okay.
Tell us about your logo.
My logo. Okay. So I have had 2 logos since the inception of TurtleWorks, and I always use 99designs.com. It's a website, and what they do is you get to run a contest, and they have graphics designers. Well, they're all independent, and you pony up some money. So the last time I did it, I put out $1,000 for a new logo, and I had about 35 designers competing for that $1,000.
Yeah.
You've got a couple of weeks to run the contest. And you get designs and they submit them. And, some of them are great. And you start to work back and forth with those designers to tweak them to get them the way you want so you can make your final decision. So this last time around, I went through that process. And in the 11th hour, I get a new submission from a new designer that's heads and shoulders above everyone else. It's 2 arcs, one for the shell, one for the head. And they supplied their reasoning for doing it. So when I saw it, it was amazing. And then when they provided the explanation behind it, it was even better still. They're thinking about line charts or graphs from a financial perspective, from a company growth perspective. So we've all seen them, X and Y, and the lines going up and down. And they were comparing that to the arcs on the turtle. And if you look at the turtle, it's expressing growth.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic. It was really a pleasure to work with somebody who just sort of came in so simply and so excellently, described what it is that we do and captured it in a logo. So,
yeah. So give them your website, because that's another interesting piece.
Yeah. So the website is turtle.works. So no .com at the end. It's just .works. Years and years ago, when I first started the business,
How often does that get butchered?
Not very often, actually, but sometimes I have to be clear. But there is no .com.
Like 4 or 5 times.
There is no .com at the end. When I first started the business, I was looking for a name and settling on TurtleWorks, and TurtleWorks.com was available as I'm researching.
And why was it TurtleWorks? Why you settled on that?
Let me finish that. So when I go to actually buy that domain name, I missed it by 3 hours.
Oh.
Somebody got it in front of me. So it was turtlellc.com for many years. And then ICANN opened up the extensions and they added a bunch. And I went looking, and sure enough, .works was there, and I jumped on it right away. And been very happy with that. So why the name? So the short answer to why we call it TurtleWorks is because we're patient with our customers. The longer answer is I went through a transition with some health problems where I was a programmer, and my hands started to hurt, and I had to slow down. And that slowing down forced my brain to become more engaged and be more intentional about what it is that I'm doing. So I have to think about where I'm going. I have to set goals and work towards those goals. And as I went through that process of realizing, I really need to think about what it is I'm doing, I was reminded of the story a professor in college had told us. And he says, I have a dog. And every time I open the front door, the dog runs out and runs down the street. Doesn't know where he's going, and one of these days he's going to get killed. And then he said, programmers are just like that dog. They don't know where they're going, but damn it, they got a code. And I realized, oh my God, I was that dog. So I guess we've circled all the way back to dogs and turtles.
Just like we started.
Well, the tire tracks on your back look well.
Nice.
All right, since you come out of your shell, let's toast this here. Well, you got,
I just one
overlook
last thing. We know. Well, the audiences know you're a very philanthropic individual.
Oh, nice.
And you've got a lot of also personal beliefs that you promote, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just real quick, what do you do with all your revenue?
With all my revenue?
No. with your portion you're willing to part ways
years ago, I read a book called The Hole in the Gospel by Richard Stearns, who was the president of World Vision for years. He was the CEO of Lennox China, and he was living the dream. And through a lot of, I guess, personal search, he basically turned it all around and started working for World Vision, took a huge pay cut. But in the book, he talked about clean drinking water as one of the primary reasons for poverty in the world. So if you don't have clean drinking water, you get sick, you can't work, you can't go to school. Your economic options are really limited. So being able to not have to walk an hour or 2 hours one way to get water that's junk is really a benefit. So I take 3% of my revenue and I give it to World Vision, where they use it to build wells.
Yeah.
Been doing that since the beginning of the business.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
I'm not sure if this is dirty water or clean water, but it's got a little tint to it. And so when you're out with us, what's your favorite flavor of bourbon?
You know what? I can't tell bourbon from Scotch from whiskey.
Okay.
But I love a glass of Merlot.
Oh, there you go.
Or a stout. And if I can't get those, give me a Diet Coke or an Americano. But this smells really good, so I'm going to try it.
Well, hey, congratulations with Turtle Works.
Hey, thank you.
And best luck.
Yep. Toast.
Cheers.
Skål.